His former chief of defense staff says he allowed 1994 coupists into State House because they had more firepower. Egypt has received the first batch of COVID-19 vaccines from China. And 30 football coaches began a week-long coaching course organized by Gambia's Football Federation. Well, this and more coming your way on The World Today. Hello, this is Africa TV and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin. I am Amadou Kante and now the news in detail, and we begin with matters of the TRC public hearing, where a former deputy state guard commander said on Monday that he surrendered against school soldiers led by Yahya Jammeh because they had superior weapons. Lantombang Tamba, who later became the army chief, said he ordered the gates to be opened and allowed Jammeh and his fellow coupists into the State House and effectively overthrew Jawara government in 1994. The CC tells us more of that in this report.
In 1994, a group of young soldiers led by lieutenants including Yahya Jammeh, who would later head a transitional military junta, overthrew the 30-year-old government of President Dawda Jawara. Jammeh and his fellow coup soldiers faced little or no resistance when they took over power on July 22, 1994, because they had superior weapons and had already seized the armory of the State Guard, according to Lantombang Tamba, a former State Guard deputy commander. Tamba told the Third Commission on Monday that he had to surrender to save his men, an act he called a wise decision.
So if you look at the decision I took, was to save my personnel, and that the president was already secured, he has left. So I instructed that they should open the gate. It started with the main gate where Edward was. And Edward with his team were the first to come in after we accepted to open the gates.
Tamba had led a team to the airport to receive the president, Dawda Jawara, who was returning from the United Kingdom. He said he had earlier received information that there was going to be a coup.
I put a standby unit. I bunda parendi kafame standby wole menube parering otumo a week before Sir Dawda's return. Lokun killing jannin Sir Dawda be mrulana. On his return, I led the team to the airport to receive Sir Dawda. And based on the rumor of a coup d'etat, I also prepared a very strong team. That is the escort team. And also another team that we call fighting team.
The Gambia has a small army compared to the sizes of national armies in neighboring countries. Under the presidency of Yahya Jammeh, rapid promotions were granted and several soldiers were given top ranks including general. Some said the promotions weren't based on merit and that some were based on tribal leanings. However, Lantombang Tamba said the promotions in the army were based on merit and not on tribalism.
All promotions in the armed forces, Gambia armed forces, were based on merits, based on recommendations from the various services, the battalions to the service chiefs, my level. However, there were promotions that were sanctioned by the Commander-in-Chief, which I may not have control over.
Lantombang Tamba was born in Sintent, Fonyi Jarol and joined the Gambian National Gendarmerie as a recruit in October 1986. At the time of Yahya Jammeh's coup in 1994, he was a lieutenant and the third in command of the Presidential Guard unit in Banjul. During the coup, he sought to prevent a clash between the coup makers and the Presidential Guards. For iAfrica News, I am Daisy.
We bring you more details of Lantombon Tamba's today's testimony in our subsequent news editions. And from that report there by Ndesise, next 2 years where at least 4 protesters were stabbed as clashes flare up between Proud Boys members and the Black Lives Matter counter-protest in Washington, D.C. over the weekend. Trump supporters had, since the unofficial announcement of the November 3rd election results, staged a series of protests claiming election fraud. But counter-protests by anti-Trump supporters had fueled tensions in some parts of U.S., leading to the death of a Black Lives Matter member. Sohna Tunkara reports.
Thousands of protesters of the ongoing U.S. President Donald Trump rallied in the U.S. Capitol for a second Million MAGA march on Saturday. The protest was organized in order to show support for Trump and his unproven claims of voter fraud in the U.S. presidential election. However, counter-protests were also organized on the same day, which saw clashes break out between the Proud Boys and the Black Lives Matter demonstrators. Several demonstrators were wounded, including a few who were hospitalized for stabbing and were reportedly in critical condition. On Saturday evening, Proud Boys members were seen snagging a Black Lives Matter banner and then proceeding to burn it during a rally in support of Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. The protesters also cheered and chanted slogans against the Antifa, a left-wing anti-fascist political movement in the United States. Also, a rally turned violent after Black Lives Matter and Trump supporters faced off in Olympia. At least one protester was shot as police attempted to disperse the groups using tear gas and paper balls. Trump not conceding defeat is causing violence in most parts of the United States as rival groups fought over the recent elections, which favored a Joe Biden administration. For iAfrica TV, Sohna Tunkara.
From the report there on U.S. political matters, we come back home because the cost of internet data in the Gambia is described as outrageous expensive by social media users, and it's said to be higher than the cost of access to internet in neighboring countries in the West African sub-region. Well, Gambians are some of the poorest people in the world, but why is the cost of internet very expensive? A QCell customer care representative has been telling customers why during a consumer parliament on Saturday. Details of that in this report by Fatmata Kasim.
Internet data bundles in the Gambia cost more than a bag of rice, a staple for some of the poorest people in the world. Internet service providers, mostly GSM companies, provide very poor internet services and are outrageously expensive. At the 6th Consumer Parliament hosted by the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority PURA on Saturday, consumers have been hearing from one of the leading GSM companies on why the cost of the internet is high in the Gambia. With consumers coming face to face with service providers, GSM companies' representatives try to justify why the cost of the internet is expensive. Mohamed Manga is a student and a subscriber to the mobile company QCell. Manga wants the company to make cost of the megabytes more reasonable. In response, Amisisi, a representative of QCell customer care service, said internet cost pricing is a bit complicated and it is difficult for consumers to understand.
Most customers are not even aware of all the different components and mechanisms used in terms of pricing. And the people in the industry know that when it comes to data, it has to do with volume. So usually the biggest comparison is Senegal. Why is data so cheap in Senegal and so expensive in Gambia? But we're talking about a population of over 15 million people compared to a little over 2 million people in this country. It's all about volume. We buy data in volume. If there was more people, it would be cheaper. GSM operators pay a lot of taxes as well. There's a lot of things involved which the customer is not aware of. But again, when it comes to the students, during the COVID period, QCell, I believe, was the only operator that actually offered free Google Suite to all UTG students, GTTI, and Gambia College. And apart from that, we also offered discounted data packages to all these 3 institutions. So as much as we can help, we would always provide affordable services to students and Gambians, but sometimes we're also restricted when it comes to charging.
Usman Saidi said internet service providers should consider the deaf and hard of hearing by providing them with services to send messages to customer care because they can't make phone calls. In response, representative of the 4 GSM companies promised to work on Saidi's request. Another consumer had requested that AfriCell should transform their bonus credit to data as QCell is already doing. This was first brought up at the Consumer Parliament 2 years ago, but AfriCell's head of corporate affairs, Musa Sise, said the company has no plans yet to provide such services.
But we're yet to act on it. It's a suggestion, and because a credit is a credit and data is data, so probably we would have to see how best we can merge in transforming a bonus data.
I was going to say you can convert voice credit to data.
I
so
can't.
The bonus is voice credit, so
yes.
We should be able to.
Hopefully, we will put this thing to management and technicians to see how best, if possible,
okay,
and so that they can also benefit.
Pura provides a platform where consumers and utility service providers can meet face-to-face to not only voice out their concerns, but also to give recommendations as to how services can be improved. The first Consumer Parliament was held in December 2008. Since then, 3 more have been held in Banjul, Kanifing, and Birkama. For iAfrica TV, I am Fatoumata Kasim.
And from the report there by Fatmata Kasim, next to Egypt, because the Egyptian authorities have received the first consignment of COVID-19 vaccines from China, becoming the first African country to receive a coronavirus vaccine. The officials of the 2 countries lauded the joint collaboration they had since the outbreak of the virus, described the breakthrough as historic. The vaccine, which is said to have been approved by health authorities in the United Arab Emirates, is said to be 96% effective and prevent medium to critical COVID-19 symptoms by 100%. Here are more details of that in this report.
Egyptian Health Minister Hala Zaid and Chinese Ambassador to Cairo, Liao Lixiang, patiently waited for some special cargo at the Cairo International Airport. The flight coming from UAE was carrying hope on board, a consignment of Egypt's first COVID-19 vaccines.
We have received the first shipment of the COVID-19 vaccine. This is the first of the air freight supplying us with a vaccine. It's a historic day. We work continuously to guarantee the influx of the vaccine to the Egyptian people. That is thanks to God and thanks to the deep friendly relations between us, the Emirati people and the Chinese people.
The vaccines have been manufactured by China's Sinopharm. The company has been collaborating with the UAE and Egypt in conducting phase 3 of human clinical trials. Authorities in the UAE approved the Chinese vaccine in the United Arab Emirates, while those in Egypt gave it the green light for emergency use in the country. The vaccine is said to be 96% effective and prevents medium to critical COVID-19 symptoms by 100%.
Collaboration between mankind is the strongest weapon to face common threats like the COVID-19 pandemic. I am happy to witness this moment. The arrival of the Chinese vaccines from the UAE to Egypt shows that China is always keen on positive cooperation when it comes to the vaccine, whether it's through the development, the production, or fair distribution.
The country will need many more, but this shipment could prove to be very effective in helping its medical staff combat the second wave. The first batch will be given to those facing the highest risk of infection, with priority given to doctors curing COVID-19 patients. Egypt has become the first African country to receive COVID-19 vaccines. The country is expecting more from China and other producers. All vaccines will be distributed for Egyptian citizens for free.
All right, as you heard there from that report, Egypt has become the first African country to receive the COVID-19 vaccines from China as the world continues to battle against the pandemic. We hope other countries also will follow suit. There's more news coming ahead, but for now we'll take a break and come back shortly with the remaining of the story. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
For the first time in the Gambia, your favorite GSM operator, Africell, is the first and only GSM operator to launch a brand new technology called the eSIM. The eSIM simply means you can use your phone without a SIM card. Do you have an iPhone 11, any of the iPhone X series, a Google Pixel 3, or any new phone that supports the e-technology? Then walk into any Africell customer care center and activate your eSIM today. With your virtual Africell SIM, you can use more than one number without having a physical SIM card in your phone. Enjoy this brand new technology for the first time in the Gambia, brought to you by Africell. eSIM, your phone without a SIM card. For more information, please call 111. Where Africell goes, nobody dares to follow.
Welcome back, and you're watching the World Today News Bulletin on Africa TV. And now to the rest of the stories. Now, the National Water and Electricity company, NAWEC, has said that it currently has projects that would address the country's water supply problems. Like electricity supply, water supply in the Gambia is very erratic and unreliable. But a consumer parliament event hosted by the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, PURA, a senior NAWEC official said new water distribution points have been built to solve the country's water supply problems. Details of that in this report by the SEC.
On Saturday, the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, PURA, held the 86th Consumer Parliament to allow consumers of various services, including telecommunication, water and electricity, to raise issues with their service providers. Held at the Sir Dawda Kairaba International Conference Center, the event allows for PURA to address consumers' concerns and challenges on the sectors it regulates. Ahmad Manjang, a native from Gunjur, laments the erratic water supply and the lack of safe drinking water in his town, 38 kilometers south of the Gambian capital Banjul. Gunjur's access to water problems has been going on for 5 years, according to Manjang. In response to his concern, Ibrahim Aseka, NAWEC's water distribution manager, says the company is working towards addressing the problem.
As I speak now, more than 1,700 meters waiting for the pipes